Hi, I'm Michelle Rupp, host of AFMC TV. Thank you for joining us. AFMC TV is a place to consider as a healthcare hub. AFMC is a healthcare nonprofit. We specialize in making our lives, businesses, and communities healthy. This space was created to share information with the community. You'll hear from healthcare experts on a broad range of topics. Medical topics like immunizations and telehealth, to lifestyle topics like strengthening a routine or keeping your family hydrated. Our promise to you is to keep you informed in a digital way, providing useful information to you and your family. Again, thank you for joining us and welcome to AFMC TV. About the vaccine. In the next hour, we will
very hard thing. That this video will provide ideas and also make sure
Good morning and welcome into this episode of AFMC TV. We're so happy that you're tuning in. We are starting this week's episode with catching up on our checkup, and today we're talking with a dermatologist. Rebecca Dennison is joining me this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we are heading into Labor Day weekend, kind of the unofficial end of summer, although we know we can still feel the summer heat well into October. But We've spent the summers at the pool and at the lakes and at the beach, and our skin.
Yes.
When is an appropriate time to go ahead and schedule that appointment and get in and see a dermatologist?
Yes. So really what I say is any time of year is the perfect time of year to get a skin check. But a lot of people do wait until fall, winter. Okay. 80% of our sun exposure is in the spring and summer months. So, a lot of people have a natural tan throughout the summer. And so they'll wait till fall or winter to come in for their skin checks. But really, I tell people any time of year is fine. But a lot of people do wait until, fall.
So if you've never been to a dermatologist, because you guys are really scary, what do you say to someone? How do they prepare? How do you put them at ease? It's nothing to be anxious about.
Yes. They're really pretty quick visits, honestly. So anybody who's been in for their first time, we kind of go over your family history. Does your mom or dad have a history of skin cancer? Do you have a history of skin cancer or pre-cancer? We talk about tanning bed exposure. Do you wear sunscreen? And then we do a full body skin exam on you. So we get you in a gown typically, and we look at you head to toe. We're checking, all the places that you don't normally see on yourself. So your scalp, your back, that kind of thing. But we look, in between the toes, we look everywhere. But they're quick visits. And if we see anything abnormal, a lot of times we'll do that biopsy within the visit. It's a pretty quick procedure to do that. And then, we'll send that tissue to our pathologist and they'll check it. And hopefully it's all fine, but it's always good to, take that preventative step and get checked.
Absolutely. You were mentioning skin check.
Yes.
And so go ahead and define that.
Yes. So a skin check is just a thorough examination, and that's kind of what we typically call it. A full body exam is another name for it. But it's just where we're, checking anything that you may be worried about. So I have a lot of people who come in and they've noticed maybe a mole has changed or they have a new growth of some sorts, and they just want to have it looked at. And so a lot of times we're doing that. And then some people just come in and they have no worries and they just, want us to look at them and make sure they're okay.
What's the difference between a mole and a freckle from being out in the sun?
Yes. So freckles are usually caused from sun exposure. Okay. And a lot of times it's cumulative sun throughout your life. You start to get freckles. Mm-hmm. Even some sunburns can cause freckles. Okay. And then moles, usually you're going to make moles throughout your life into your 20s and 30s. And those are oftentimes the ones we worry about potentially changing into something precancerous or cancerous.
Okay. What are the different types of skin cancer? because we hear different names and they all sound scary, and some may not be as terrifying as others.
Right. So melanoma is by far the most deadly and aggressive form of skin cancer, the one we really, really worry about. But there's also other skin cancers. So basal cell and squamous cell carcinomas are the kind of other two main ones.
Okay.
And those are usually caused from sunburns, cumulative sun exposure throughout your life.
Okay.
But the key with all that is a lot of times they're going to start off as a precancerous lesion. And so the goal is to catch those early before they turn into a skin cancer.
Gotcha. What is the treatment? I guess the preventative treatment would be the removal.
Yes.
Either way, it's removal.
Right.
But if it gets to an advanced stage, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so with melanoma, usually it's an excision. So further tissue is taken around the actual mole, and then all of that is checked again by pathology. With basal cell and squamous cell cancers, a lot of times we'll do a procedure called a Mohs procedure. Okay. And it's a micrographic procedure. It's done in office, so it's not anything you have to be put to sleep for or anything like that.
Okay.
It's just local anesthetic. But the Mohs surgeons check your tissue under the microscope before they close you back up, so they know that they've gotten the whole skin cancer.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. And the best way to avoid it all the way around?
Yeah, so sunscreen is by far the best thing you can do, but then also just, preventing sunburns. That's a big thing. Really, if you've had 2 to 5 sunburns early on in life, that dramatically increases your risk for skin cancer. So, wide brim hat, sunscreens, nowadays we have sun protective clothing that's really helpful. So all that.
And how often should we be scheduling a dermatology visit?
Yeah, so really in your 20s and 30s is a great time to do an initial check. And then we may say, come back in, 2 or 3 years. But as you get older, really a yearly, annual skin check is what you want to do.
Okay. Anything else, Rebecca, that we need to know about it?
Well, I think the big thing is skin is the largest organ on our body, and the beauty behind these skin checks is that if a skin cancer is caught early, it's very treatable, and a lot of times a very non-invasive procedure to treat it. So the earlier the better, and that's kind of the main point. You really want to, a lot of people go in for their annual kind of, physical exams with their primary care doctor, maybe their annual dental exams. And so you really want to treat your skin the same way.
Okay. That is great advice. Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Yes, thank you.
Joining me now is Dr. Chad Rogers, AFMC Chief Medical Officer and pediatrician. Good morning, Dr. Chad.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
Thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So, some stunning news that came out early June that the rise, and I want to make sure that I say it correctly, there was a rise in type 2 diabetes in children. That number doubled as a result, or maybe not as a result, but has doubled within the last year. And what has happened in the last year is the pandemic. So maybe it's doubled as a result of the pandemic. That has to be shocking as a pediatrician to read those headlines.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge surprise to me what I began to see during the pandemic when everybody was kind of staying at home and then sports were shut down. People were not being as active. We're seeing a lot of weight gain in our kids that we see in the clinic. At every visit, we check a height and a weight, and just consistently was seeing about a 15, 19, 20 pound weight gain. And so I began to talk to other pediatricians about it, and then they began to look at it even closer. And this wasn't just an Arkansas trend. This was a national trend. Yeah. And of course, with increasing weight, that increases the possibility that you're going to develop type 2 diabetes. Your blood sugar is going to be a little bit higher, and your cholesterol is going to go up. So a lot of effects there of the pandemic that we really didn't expect at the beginning.
So when a parent hears that their child at the sweet tender age of, 7, 8, 9, 10, is now has type 2 diabetes, that, can you reverse that? Or is that kind of like, and here's your life now until you pass away?
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons I went into pediatrics is because there are a lot of things that you can do to intervene. So at those visits, you're going to get your height and weight checked. If you're kind of trending up, you should get your blood sugar checked. And so the good thing for kids is that they're still growing and developing. And so one of the ways that you can lower your blood sugar is through exercise. And so kids are growing taller, which is to their benefit. So sometimes they can grow into their weight, or they can even lose weight, or just by becoming more active, kids can just more easily than adults, lose weight. The other thing is, begin to look at what their diet looks like and how much sugar they're consuming. And I love how people say hidden sugars. They're not really hidden. You look at the back of the label, you can see
Says it right there.
Yeah, you can see sugar or high fructose corn syrup, which is a really concentrated sugar. So there are a lot of interventions that can take place early on that can lower their weight, lower their blood sugar, and maybe postpone the diabetes or the effects of the diabetes for years. But a lot of people will just, even adults, by losing weight and exercising, can lower their blood sugar and decrease their possibility for going on and having lifelong diabetes.
Okay, so it's not necessarily something permanent, but it will be something that you have to stay on top of.
Right, exactly.
Because it could
if the weight comes back, then probably your sugars are going to go back up, and you're going to go into that diabetic phase.
What do you say to parents? How can they help fight childhood obesity?
Yeah. So, we were talking about this earlier. It's a family thing. It's not that like just one person in the family. So if one person in the family just has a high blood sugar, one person just has a high cholesterol, it's a whole family effort. It's healthy for the whole family to eat the diabetic diet, to lower the blood sugar. So I think that's sort of something you have to do. I think that's something we have to do as a community, as a culture, by increasing physical activity, increasing opportunities and access to safe places to do exercise, and making sure that our kids have access to foods that are healthy and not so high in sugar and not so high in fats, and kind of trying to avoid those processed and eating more fresh meats and vegetables or lean meats, fruits and vegetables, to kind of help control your body's sugar for your lifetime. Because
the sugar you get in an orange or an apple or a banana, completely different than the sugar you're going to get in ice cream, a soda pop, an Airhead candy.
Yeah. One thing I tell
Reese's
people,
peanut butter cups.
I say the first step you can do is just start to look for high fructose corn syrup. Yeah. I mean, it is really concentrated sugar that really goes quickly into the cells of our body where we store fat. And so, if you're looking for a first step, that's the one. The second one is start to increase your physical activity. Just get out and walk.
Okay. All right. Dr. Chad, thank you so much. As always, love having you here.
No problem. Thanks, Michelle.
JJ Mayo joins us now. And JJ, you are, you're a nutritionist, you're a PhD, you're a professor up at UCA. You have a wellness company. There's so much. And this next portion about exercise and diet when it comes to children and type 2 diabetes is right up your alley. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. This is a big topic.
It is. So we learned from Dr. Chad just in our last segment that children diagnosed with type 2 diabetes has doubled during the pandemic. And I mean, my goodness. Okay. The first thing I wanted to do was grab my niece and nephew and we got to get outside and run around the block, something. But, when you kind of stop and think about it, during 2020, we were virtual schools. We were on the screens. We weren't at recess. We weren't going outside. So I guess the statistic, although initially sounds shocking, it's not surprising.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm a little surprised, but I am not shocked. I mean, you think about what we did is we brought all our kids indoors to learn when typically when they go to school, they're going to be have at gym class, they're going to have recess, they're going to be way more active. And not to mention the fact if they're at home 24/7 around the refrigerator, bad things can happen.
Just like most parents found out during the pandemic, that exactly. 19, 20 pound gain. Yes. So if a parent has received this diagnosis for their child, what are some easy steps that they can immediately start to implement around the house?
Right. And so the first thing I would say to parents if they get this diagnosis for their child is that to take a deep breath, In my experience, type 2 diabetes, it's not a life sentence. It can be controlled. It can be, some people will balk on this, but can be reversed. And so know that you can work and improve these conditions. And typically what you would do is you would have a team. You can do it yourself, but you would have a team, right? You'd have your pediatrician, you'd have maybe endocrinologists and registered dietitians to work together to help these kids improve their health, improve their condition. So if you had to ask me what were some simple things that you could do, the first one is to reduce or eliminate sugar. And that's harder said, done than said. It's just so hard because it's everywhere. Sugar is all over the place. And
it's in ketchup.
Yeah, it's in ketchup. It's in everything that's right. And that's why a lot of times parents, and because if they're not into nutrition, they don't see all this. It's everywhere. It's in everything we do. And here's the thing. Type 2 diabetes, I don't know if you've talked about this, but the type 2 diabetes, it's a condition that's characterized by high blood sugar. So if you think of it this way, if the problem is you have high blood sugar, then wouldn't the solution be to lower your sugar intake? It seems simple.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be the first step. Now it's some of the things are pretty obvious, like your sodas, right? That's your drinks, your sugary drinks, your sports drinks. A lot of times you can overdo those, but some of the things that we don't think about, we think of them as healthy. We can overdo things like juice, in particular, like orange juice. If you think of kids maybe drinking a cup of orange juice, think about how many oranges you'd have to squeeze to get that cup of juice, right? So it's really highly concentrated in sugar. So just be careful with that. So that's the first thing. The next thing is to move. Our bodies are made to move, especially kids, right? And now we've got this pandemic where we're asking them to do classes indoors and we're not wanting them to be around their friends. And, there's just challenges around that. Kids are meant to be outside and to play, And so that's what I would say is to move more in any fashion you can, whether it be with your parent or, and hopefully we're getting back to where we're playing with other kids and doing that type of thing, but just to be active. And the last one is to eat real food. I know this. These processed, refined foods, these sometimes they call them Frankenfoods, can cause a problem, right? So those would be my 3 tips.
Frankenfoods, because they've been manufactured, I guess.
Absolutely. If you put it outside, that's the thing. If it doesn't rot and it looks exactly the same like a month from now as it did when you put it out there, that's a problem.
Okay, great advice, JJ. As always, thank you for stopping by today.
Thanks for your time. Have a good day.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you back here next week for more AFMC TV.